Hey everyone! In today's video, we'll take a look at a legendary pawn-driven game played way back in 1834 between Alexander McDonald, a talented chess master, and Louis de la Bourdonnais, who at the time was considered the strongest player in the world. McDonald had the white pieces, and La Bourdonnais played with the black ones. We'll follow the game from McDonald's point of view. He starts with e4, and black replies with c5, the Sicilian defense. White develops the knight to f3, black plays c6, and then comes d4, striking the center right away. Pawns are exchanged on d4, and white recaptures with the knight. Black immediately responds with e5, gaining space in the center. White trades knights on c6, and black takes back with the pawn, strengthening the center and eyeing up d5 later. White brings out the bishop to c4, keeping d5 under control. Then comes f6, attacking the e4 pawn, but white responds with g5, pinning the knight to the queen. Black plays e7, breaking the pin and threatening to capture on e4. White doesn't castle yet, instead e2 to protect the central pawn. Black goes for d5, grabbing space and initiative in the center. White captures the knight on f6, and after black recaptures, white doesn't exchange on d5, instead pulling the bishop back to maintain pressure. Capturing on e4 would destroy black's pawn structure, so they castle. White follows and castles as well. Black pushes the a-pawn, threatening a4, which would trap the bishop. There's nowhere for it to go. So white first captures on d5, and after black recaptures, they bring a rook to the center. The d5 pawn is now under pressure. Black pushes it further, d4, and white follows with c4, blocking the diagonal and making sure a4 is no longer an issue. Now the bishop can fall back to c2 if needed. Black brings the queen out to b6, preparing to double the rooks. White repositions the bishop to c2, now eyeing the king side. And then white offers a poisoned pawn on b2. If black captures, they walk into h7, and after king takes, white wins the queen. But black doesn't fall for it, and instead brings out their bishop along the long diagonal. White develops the knight to d2, heading toward e4, a key blockading square. Black places the rook on e8, applying pressure in the center. But both sides avoid trades for now. Black pulls the bishop back to f6, not only dodging exchanges, but also prepping the central pawn break, f5. White reacts with c5, freeing up c4 and opening up diagonals. Now if f5 comes, the king's defenses might weaken. Black's queen is attacked. It retreats to c6, creating a strong diagonal battery. The knight on e4 can't move. If it does, mate follows on g2. So white supports the knight on e4. Black plays e7, aiming to remove the c5 pawn, but white defends with c1, lining up along the half-open file. Black finally pushes f5, attacking the knight, but white throws in a check with the queen from c4, forcing black's king to step aside. And instead of retreating the knight, white plays a brilliant shot, a4, skewering the queen on c6 and the rook on e8. Black's queen shifts to h6, eyeing e3. White goes ahead and captures the rook on e8. While black takes the knight on e4, black's light square bishop becomes powerful, threatening to destroy white's pawn shield with f3. Although white has an exchange up, those light squares are crumbling. White tries to stop it all with c6, hitting the bishop, but capturing the bishop on e8 now lets white grab the b7 pawn and create a massive passer. So instead, black plays f3, sacrificing the bishop on b7. White sees all of this and doesn't touch the bishop. Instead, c2 to defend the second rank. But the queen still comes to e3, forcing h1 again. Black reroutes the bishop to c8, planning to swing it over to the king side. White cuts that off with d7, offering a trade. Black ignores and pushes f2, threatening promotion. White's rook steps up to f1 to block it, but now d3 charges forward too. White plays c3, doubling up on the pawn and pinning it to the queen. But after bishop exchanges on d7 and e4, the passed d3 pawn becomes untouchable. McDonald sees the danger and tries c8, aiming to undo the queen. But if black captures the queen, white's plan is takes f8 and then queening the pawn on d8. La Bourdonnais calmly plays d8, blocking the promotion. The bishop is guarded by the rook, so sacrifices don't work, and if white tries c8, black can go b6 to cover. White falls back with the queen to c4, but now black sacrifices the queen with e1. Capturing it leads straight into promotion and mate. White brings the rook back to c1 to defend, but black continues with d2, reinforcing the queen on e1 and attacking the rook. White tries a trick with c5, hoping black takes on c1 and walks into takes f8 mate, but black calmly plays g8, and now the attack is shut down. White has to retreat the rook to d1 using both rooks to block the pawns, but black plays e3, bringing in the final pawn. This creates a terrifying triangle of pawns. The move e2 is coming, and it's unstoppable. Macdonald tries c3, tying the queen to d2, but it's too late. Black ends the game with a stunning queen sacrifice. Takes d1, and after takes comes e2. Now all three pawns are on the second rank, ready to promote. White has a queen and rook, but it doesn't matter. The pawn wave is unstoppable. Even if white tries to save it with g1, black simply captures the rook and promotes. Checkmate follows. All white can do now is delay mate, for example, play h4, so that after e1, the king has an escape square. But then comes f1, followed by another promotion. Checkmate in a few moves is inevitable. Macdonald resigned after e2. And that's how this game earned its place in chess history and remains famous to this day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to support the channel using the links below. Like or dislike the video, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.